What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate. Today, my voice is back, which means videos are back. Welcome to my channel. Hey, we're going to dive right on in here to college football playoff New Year's 6 bowl game predictions after week 4 of the college football season, or I guess week 5 predictions, whatever you would like to call them. But, there are some very slight changes to my college football playoff field here, but it was a monster week 4. We learned a lot about a lot of teams. And guys, I think if this season has told you anything so far, it's that not only the margin for error is really, really slim, but the margins between all of the teams that could compete for a spot in the college football playoff are razor thin as well. Hey, thank you guys so much for your support that the channel has seen as of late. If you want to continue to show your support, biggest way you can do that is hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. But there are some other ways you can help me support this channel as well. You guys are doing one of them right now just by watching this video, and you guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys may be willing and or able to do to help me support this channel. Again, whatever you guys are able to do would mean a lot to me. So without further ado, guys, let's just go ahead, dive right on in here, talking about the college football playoff bracket. And there is a slight change to my playoff bracket this week. However, there is still no change to the number 1 team in the nation, the Georgia Bulldogs. Again, because they are number 1, they will choose to play in the All-State Sugar Bowl. Georgia, to me, is still that number 1 overall team. Right now, I know they haven't really looked like the true number 1 team, but I think you could go ahead and argue that really nobody has, right? There really hasn't been a team that has gone out and shown that they're above and beyond the rest of college football. Now, you can make a case for a ton of teams on why they should be the number 1 team in the nation. You can throw in body of work, you can throw in how they've looked, etc., etc. But bottom line, Georgia's back-to-back national champions. While they've had their struggles, Georgia, for the most part, has been pretty consistent. And even though it feels like the team's taken a step back from where it has been in years past, as of right now, still got Georgia, of course, as that number 1 team in the nation. Number 2 team, another team you can make a case to be number 1, are the Michigan Wolverines. Now, I know that they have also had their struggles here and there, right? Especially J.J. McCarthy in the first half there against Bowling Green a couple of weeks ago. And it really took Michigan a while to get things figured out against a Rutgers team that, albeit has been playing some pretty good football this year, but Michigan should have really been able to handle them a lot more than they did, or at least start to get off on the right foot earlier than they did. Of course, Michigan being the second team will be left with the Rose Bowl game, but as I mentioned before, Michigan probably will not be complaining about that much. Now, there is a slight change to the way that I have formatted this playoff bracket, right? I believe that as of right now, Texas has jumped Florida State for the number 3 spot, which does mean Florida State is here at number 4, but let's move back to Texas for a minute, right? The Texas Longhorns, here's the thing with Texas, right? And I don't know if I've explained this yet this year, or I should say this week, but the thing that concerned me with Texas after the win against the Alabama Crimson Tide was the fact that normally what Texas has done is play down to their level of competition, meaning last week, if they were to go against a team like Baylor that has been struggling, it would be a much closer, tight-knit game than a lot of people were expecting out of that matchup, but that's not what happened. Texas showed up, they took care of business, they thoroughly dominated the Baylor Bears from start to finish, and that, to me, is cause for Texas to jump over Florida State here, right? As Florida State, over the past couple of weeks, have just not been able to put together the cleanest of performances. Now, the second half against LSU, I think by far was their best football that they have played all year long. Really struggled 2 weeks ago against Boston College, and I don't necessarily want to say they struggled against Clemson. I think Clemson showed up really, really well, and Clemson played a very, very good game. Clemson's a very good defensive team. Cade Klubnik and the offense really came around and was able to perform up to the standard that it needed to be in that game there as well. And Clemson was maybe a couple plays away from being able to win that game. But the thing that's impressive about Florida State is, yes, the going gets tough, maybe when it probably shouldn't get tough, aka 2 weeks ago against Boston College. But you end up buckling your chin straps, you buckle down, and you find a way to win that game. But just the way that Texas has been impressive all year long, the way that defense has come along, and the way that they played, not necessarily up to the level of competition, but they didn't play down to the level of competition when they went and played the Baylor Bears, is cause for me to jump them ahead right there to number 3. So you got Georgia and you got Florida State here for the number 1 versus number 4 matchup, a game that I think could be very, very good. Again, Florida State's already proven that they can go out and beat a team in the SEC like the Georgia Bulldogs. But my predictions for the semifinal games have still not changed. I believe Georgia, when it comes to this time in the year, will still just be too physical. They'll be able to win that matchup. Michigan is a boa constrictor. They will hustle you. They will run the clock down with the run game, and they will not let go until the final whistle. And Michigan has got a lot of opportunities here to really gear themselves up before they get to go play a big game. Again, you got Penn State and Ohio State that are both coming up here in November. Interesting road game against Nebraska coming up this week. But Michigan there, still my pick to win the national championship game. I know J.J. McCarthy may not have looked as good this year as he has last year, but I believe J.J. McCarthy will be able to find it. I believe part of that is him kind of taking on more reps, right? Him getting used to his new kind of regime and being able to throw more balls. This defense is really, really good. Both of these defenses here with Michigan and Georgia are really, really good. I just feel like Michigan still has all of the pieces to be able to put it together and win a national title. All 4 of these teams do. Michigan still my pick, as it has been all season long. Now, before we move on to my New Year's Six bowl game predictions, most of the teams that you're going to see in my New Year's Six bowl game predictions here are teams viably that can go make the college football playoff. Ohio State, I think, really proved themselves, especially Kyle McCord, with that sort of coming of age story in the final minute 26 in that epic game against Notre Dame. But Ohio State still has not shown me, as Notre Dame still, in my opinion, kind of won the line of scrimmage battle there. Now, Ohio State buckled down. They played physical. They played tough when they had to. But Notre Dame, I think, definitely overall won the line of scrimmage battle. And that's something that Michigan's going to be able to do against Ohio State as well. And then we have to talk about a conference as a whole in the Pac-12, right? USC, Oregon, Utah, Washington, all of those teams have been very impressive so far throughout this season. But until the Pac-12 can really prove that there's a team that emerges out of those 4, 5, 6, however many teams you want to lump in to the college football playoff contender room there in the Pac-12. And right now, it'd probably end up being Washington. I think they've looked the more impressive. They are the highest rated Pac-12 team in my top 25 poll. And then even when you go ahead and take a look at a team like Penn State, too, out of the Big Ten, group that in with Ohio State, they've been impressive. But back to the Pac-12 conversation, until there's a team that can outright prove that, like, hey, we can go win a lot of these big games. We can beat all the other teams in the Pac-12 conference. Basically, what I'm saying is when the Pac-12 conference can show me that the teams in it are not going to eat each other alive and cannibalize itself, then there will be a team in the college football playoff there. But so many contenders in the Pac-12, one of them being the USC Trojans, who I still have put in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. However, there have been some changes to my New Year's Six bowl game predictions. I believe that Penn State will deserve a spot here in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Penn State's a team that I've had making the New Year's Six bowl game, I think, pretty much the entire way. Drew Aller is real. That's a really, really good defense as well. And I mean, they showed it last week in the whiteout game against Iowa. This is the Penn State team that is really, really going to challenge what Michigan and Ohio State are doing there. And Penn State can make a run towards the Big Ten title in the college football playoff spot. Absolutely. And then USC, we know the story with them. Offensively, really, really good team. Defensively, they definitely still have some work to do. But overall, they're a very, very talented team on that side of the ball as well. Interesting game against Colorado coming up for them. Penn State also on the road this week against Northwestern. Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. We got a new team here in my New Year's Six bowl game predictions. Notre Dame has still stayed strong, and Notre Dame is still not even out of the college football playoff race. I forgot to mention them there in the little bracket graphic, but Notre Dame is nowhere near out of the college football playoff race either, because when I take a look at the Fighting Irish, they were a couple missed opportunities and a couple plays away from being able to pull off that big win against Ohio State just this past Saturday. So when I take a look at the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Sam Hartman has still played really, really well. Really like the way that he's playing. Audric Estime is a workhorse. That's a really good defense led by the linebacking unit, led by that secondary. They're so good, Notre Dame, and they still got a lot of chances to get some marquee wins on their resume. Duke, Louisville, USC, Clemson, those are going to be huge marquee games for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But the new team to the fray is the Oregon Ducks. Very impressed by the way that Oregon was able to go out and absolutely demolish Colorado, like what I kind of thought there was going to happen. But it's also really, really good to see the passion and fire and energy out of their head coach in Dan Lanning, and we'll talk about that with another coach coming up here as well. But Oregon, much like a lot of the other Pac-12 teams that are towards the top, are college football playoff contenders. But again, in order to get into that bracket, you got to prove that you can beat everyone else in that conference. We're going to dive away from Pac-12 teams here a little bit. We're going to go to the Capital One Orange Bowl, where my matchup has remained the same. We still got the North Carolina Tar Heels, and we still got the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's something about North Carolina this year, man, that just feels different. Drake May is really starting to come around and play like the Drake May that we saw last year, even though, yes, Tez Walker did not have that waiver proved to be eligible. And even though that's a team that lost a lot of offensive weapons from last year, look, the run game, the pass game, it's all working really, really well. And it's a North Carolina defense that, while it hasn't been pretty for a lot of this season, it's buckled down and it's stepped up and it's created pressure and it's forced turnovers when it's needed to. The North Carolina just kind of feels like a different team this year, and a team that absolutely can challenge Florida State for the ACC, but I still have them making the New Year's Six bowl game. And then we got the Ohio State Buckeyes, the team that I think is right there on the cusp of getting into my college football playoff bracket. But for as great as a win as that was for the Ohio State Buckeyes, that's a team that has to prove to be a little bit more physical. Now, look, I'm not saying Ohio State is not a physical team, right? This Ohio State team is very, very tough, and it's very, very physical. Now, Notre Dame was definitely more physical, yes, but Ohio State still a very physical team that is an offensive line that was able to give Kyle McCord a lot of time when it really needed to there. That's a defense that stepped up, made some huge plays. And I mean, come on, who doesn't want to go play for Ryan Day after that passionate speech there at the end of when he was on the field there after that game had concluded, right? I want to go play for Ryan Day there, not just because of the colors that I wear on my sleeves. No, because of that speech and the passion and the energy. I think that's what Ryan Day's always been, but I think the nation really got to see that there last week. So, I mean, this is an Ohio State team. Huge, big, marquee win on the cusp of the college football playoff, if not to some people in the college football playoff. And then another new team here. We got the Fresno State Bulldogs. They'll play their first conference game this week against Nevada, but they're sitting 4-0, and they've absolutely run through and dominated everyone that they have played so far. Fresno State has looked really, really good. They have 2 Power 5 wins on their schedule, including last week, just an absolute thrashing of Kent State. But you go back a week prior, they beat a Pac-12 team in Arizona State. You go back to the very first week, went on the road in West Lafayette and beat Purdue. So, I mean, this is a Fresno State team, guys, that looks really, really good. And right now, I think has overtaken Tulane for the top spot in the group of 5. And then, of course, you got Washington here as well. Probably up to this point, one of the most impressive teams in the entire nation, and probably the most impressive team in the Pac-12 conference. Michael Penix just looks phenomenal. He's got a great group of skill position players, and the defense has really stepped up there as well. And I know that they just gave up 32 points to Cal, but when your offense is scoring 60 a game pretty much, I mean, again, this defense can definitely take some time off. Now, when you go play some of the other teams in the Pac-12 conference, like Oregon, like USC, maybe even like a Colorado, I'm not sure if they're on Washington's schedule, though. Those are going to be games right there where your defense is going to have to buckle down and it's going to have to play hard. Washington's defense, though, looks healthier than last year, and it looks to be improved from last year. But I'll throw the college football playoff bracket up here one more time. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Again, a lot happened in week 4, a lot to explain here, a little bit of a longer video than these normally take. But thank you guys still so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and anything like that to help support the channel. And hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. We'll start week 5 predictions predictions here later on today. Goodbye.